Everybody to the Real Estate Education Club at Intel. My name is Daniel Homland, and today we're going to be talking about short-term rentals. And we've got two experts here on the line to tell us about their business. Thank you to everybody who dealt with me last week being sick while we were doing this. And hopefully this week we will not have as much muting of myself on the phone and coughing. Before we get started, does anybody have any opens, any topics that you would like to see in the future? Go ahead and speak up, and we'll hear a few of those, or you could just drop them into the chat if you want to keep going. Sounds like people are anxious to get the speakers going. So we still have kind of a low showing, only 51 people here. Just to let you guys know, we now have 2 meetings per week. One is internal to Intel, that's this one. One is external to Intel, that's the one on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific. The one that's, I see we have some suggestions coming in. The one that's external to Intel, we also include REI clubs from other businesses. So if you're joining that one, that's on Zoom. The first week we had problems with registration, and that was an issue. We got that taken care of. And then the second week we had apparently a problem with 100 attendee limit, and that is now taken care of as well. So hopefully moving forward, that'll be a little more smooth experience. But the Thursday meetings where we get together with the Apple group, the Walmart group, the Amazon group, and a few others, and have a joint meeting all together. So check that out if you can. We do have a Facebook group for that if you're interested as well. And I'll drop that in the chat at some point. But for now, let's introduce our 2 guest speakers. We have Brian Green and Katie Green. Guys, welcome to the Intel Real Estate Investment Education Club.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here. Really got a lot of good stuff for you. We've done a number of these, and every time we approach them from the perspective of what could we teach that would have the most impact on the particular audience that we're talking to on that occasion. And so we started with one slide that's going to ask you guys to just kind of weigh in on something, and it'll have a minor impact on the direction that we take the rest of the talk. So I don't know if the slide can go up yet, but basically it's 1 through 4. And the options are, what is your status regarding short-term rentals? Is it something that you've never really thought that much about? That would be 1. Number 2 would be, I've been thinking about it for a while, but I haven't done anything. And then number 3 would be, I already have one. And number 4 would be, I already have more than one. So if you could just throw in a 1, 2, 3, or a 4, and then Daniel can just kind of do a rough tabulation, just looking at what's coming in, and we'll kind of adjust.
2, 2, 2, 4. Can you repeat those categories one more time?
Number 1 is I haven't really thought about it that much, or just started to think about it. Number 2 is been thinking about it.
Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
Number 3 is I have one already. Number 4 is I have more than one already.
Looks like we've got a mix of 1, 2, and 3s, and I think I saw 1 4 go by. Yeah, we do have 1 4 in the group. 2 4s in the group.
All right, great. All right, so we have a few people that have them. Most people have at least started thinking about it, and I would think if you're looking at any aspect of real estate at this point, you'd at least tangentially brush up against the idea, well, maybe I should do short-term rentals with this. So we'll start with that in mind, that you guys are kind of at the precipice and that it might be something that you embark on at some point. Our expertise is in the presentation of the property that you have to rent. So that's Airbnb, VRBO, your own website, etc. So that's what we're going to focus mostly on, but we'll spend a couple minutes at the beginning just kind of getting the lay of the land of where Airbnb and short-term rentals in general are headed. So you can go forward. So here's some things that are kind of working against the industry right now. STR, short-term rental. We have, as Daniel already mentioned, really skyrocketing real estate prices, which make it hard to earn a massive profit, on whatever the nightly rate you can get is. We've definitely got a lot of rules and regulations coming into play at multiple levels, the state level, local level, and the HOA level. And so definitely, even though this is not our forte, we can put you in touch with the kind of people who know all about this stuff. And you really, really want to look carefully when you're considering getting a place that you would use for short-term rentals. What are those rules, and how many layers are there that I have to keep track of? Is this an HOA that's friendly to short-term rentals? If not, what kind of restrictions are there? Is it that everything has to be 30 days or more, or are there other kinds of restrictions? Maybe it's banned altogether. So you can't always know where the wind is blowing, but you at least want to kind of get the flavor. Even if there's nothing bad happening right now in the area you're looking at, you want to know what the trend is. Are people getting upset with Airbnbs? Are they happy with them? Are they trying to carve out a haven for short-term rentals, etc.? And then the last one is more about COVID, and obviously that's going to ebb and flow in terms of last year. We were locked down for a while, but then it came back with a vengeance, and there's all this pent up demand and that kind of thing. And that kind of leads us over to the pros, which is it was a great year overall for short-term rentals, especially rural short-term rentals that were within driving distance of a city. So that was really the key. We talked to a lot of hosts that were just crushing it, sometimes doubling their best year ever if they were within an hour or two of a city, because people wanted to feel like they could escape and get someplace quickly that felt like they were safe and sequestered. It looks like this is going to be another good year. We've looked at a couple of the prognosticators in the industry, and the data looks like it's going to be close to as good as last year, if not a little bit better than last year, which is really something, because last year was pretty much a record year. The other thing that's really changed over the last 5 to 10 years is there are so many tools and automation opportunities and experts that can basically spell out every step of the way. Whereas the people that were jumping in 10 or 15 years ago, they were kind of making it up as they went along. Now you've got tons of podcasts. You've got lots of software tools that can automate everything from how to set your pricing to how to communicate and send out text at certain stages to your guests that are about to show up. And so not only do you have all that help available, but you can also predict with a lot more certainty what the upside potential is on any given property. There, I'll just rattle off a couple: AirDNA, Mash Visor. There's one called All the Rooms. There's a lot of them that you could punch in an address and get a feel for the ebb and flow month to month, how much they think you could be making, what your occupancy rate could be, what nightly rate you could get. And you can check that at the 50th percentile, the 75th percentile, et cetera. So you can get very, very granular and not be just, taking a wild stab and hoping that it works out. You can have a pretty solid idea of what your revenues could be and compare those to what your mortgage or other kinds of payments would be. That's as far as we go in terms of the industry as a whole. Now we'll kind of dive into our specialty. So we're taking the approach today of just blasting as much good information as we can to you for a couple of reasons. One is we know this is recorded, so you can go back and watch it. So if you miss parts of it, it's still there in perpetuity. The other thing is that we've done a number of these presentations, and literally we could probably talk for at least 10 to 20 hours on different aspects of what we do. And so we just wanted to pack as much of what we could get across in 30 to 45 minutes in as possible. So we'll try not to go so fast that you can't understand us, but we definitely wanted to get as much in as possible. So first thing, since you guys are a real estate club, real estate versus short-term rental. One is about the space, the other is about the experience. Another way of putting it is one is here's what you get, the other one is here's how you're going to feel. So when you think about real estate photography, it's like inventory. It's like, here's the size of the living room, here's what the kitchen looks like, etc. And with short-term rental, it's more about trying to create photographs that evoke an emotion or create a connection, get the person to feel like they want to jump right through the screen and be there now. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. And just before Brian starts talking about this, that is our perspective, and that's kind of where we're leaning. So we started with photos. We've kind of slightly expanded what we do now for people with listings, but we're still very photo heavy, as will be this presentation. So that's going to be our main focus, is the marketing aspect, the visual marketing aspect of right. Having a really good rental and a good listing.
And it came about very organically. We were traveling a lot. We were frustrated with the quality of a lot of listings. And then that morphed into empathy, where we're like, you know what? A lot of these hosts are probably really good. They just haven't done a very good job of presenting themselves online. And then Katie had the perfect background to fill that gap. She worked in Hollywood. She did post-production editing and trailers for Fox and Disney and HDTV. And so it was a really smooth transition to be able to create tools that would allow hosts to be able to upgrade their presentation. And it just turns out that there are a lot of people who get into the business and they naturally get sucked into the vortex of how do I deal with the guests? How do I make sure that they have a good time? How do I communicate with them? How do I make sure that the check-in communication goes smoothly, that there's something nice waiting for them, on the counter, etc. And they end up neglecting or forgetting about the listing, which they might have thrown up in 20 minutes when they first got started, and then they got a booking right away. And that was the last time they thought about their listing. But the listing is so important because it's the one place where you're going to actually convince them to either stay with you or stay with somebody else. And you're going to have, we call it the Hunger Games. You have to win in that one photo of yours versus one photo of everybody else in town or whoever they've selected down to. So it's a very, very important part, because everything that comes downstream from that is never going to get utilized unless you win people over at the outset. So I'm going to let Katie tell you the story about when we moved to Montana in 2014, because it really kind of started everything. And it also serves as a really nice metaphor for the way we think about things.
Right. We decided that we are done working from the office. We were really ahead of the game there. Now everybody's doing it with COVID, but we wanted to work and travel at the same time. And I particularly really love winter. I'm from Finland and I'm in Finland right now, but I still really love winter. I'm the only one here who does. So Brian said, okay, you're gonna get one chance at winter and then it's just all beach. And we decided that maybe Montana or somewhere around there would be nice. Sounds very pretty. We've never been there. Back in those days, we used Craigslist, can believe it or not, to find a place. And we found this gorgeous cabin with very kind of limited info on what it would be like. And it didn't sound super attractive on the surface. We called this guy and he basically kind of wanted to interview us, the owner, to see if these two, California kids are going to make it up in Montana, chopping wood and stuff. And it was off the grid. This is a Google map a screenshot of the area. Had no neighbors for a couple of miles. You really can't hit your foot with an axe or you're going to just bleed to death. Ambulance won't get to you fast enough. We had to use a propane tank that went to a generator that charged batteries so that we could have electricity. And when we told our friends and family about it, they were not very excited. They didn't quite understand why on earth we would go to there. Why would we do that? So here's at the end of a 4-mile dirt drive, totally off the grid. Nearest grocery store, movie theater was an hour and a half away. There were a couple of very, very small towns, but basically they had like a 7-Eleven and a local little restaurant. And then it was just woods and deer until you get to Missoula or Kalispell. Quite a long drive. Must bring bear spray on all walks. So it's just scary all around. When we got there, this is what we saw. So we went up there in the fall to kind of check out the place, and the owner wanted to check us out. And this was maybe the first morning when we woke up there at the cabin. We went out, and this was the sunrise on the pond that is on the backyard. And it was just so beyond stunning. I grabbed this photo quickly. That's Brian on the jumping board of the pond. And this is the photo that we sent to everyone saying, look, here's a shot of the backyard. And immediately everybody got it. They're like, okay, we get it. We get it while you're moving there. It's just, you don't need anything else. This visual alone was enough. This is the cabin. And the more we took photos and kind of showed them to friends and family, everybody kind of wanted to come. It's the oohs and ahs, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. So all the cons just sort of started to go away because of how stunning it is. And of course, we took lots of photos, and we took photos for this owner so that he can find people, tenants, to come in after us. And we really wanted to highlight the experience of being there, what it feels like to be there, what it feels like to stand in that snow and try to capture the mountains that you could see from the living room every day. And I never grew tired of them. And I really wanted to try to convey that. It had all these cool little features, like these delicate wooden lamps and natural features in the wood that the owner, the slash builder, had left in, a wood fire stove, and it was just so rustic and charming and cute. And it had all kinds of crazy wildlife around there that I didn't think you could have in one place, with moose and elk and turtles and turkeys and of course deer, hummingbirds in the summer. And it came with this black cat who became our best friend Darwin. So it's just, when we think about this place, we don't think about any of the cons, how we had to throw snowballs into the stove to try to get it to go out in the middle of the night because it just wouldn't. Brian had built such a good fire. He kept rattling the pipes. All these crazy things that happened, how our car got stuck in the snow because it wasn't as big of a truck as everybody else's. We don't really remember any of that. We remember the cute squirrels and the deer. So when we promoted it for him, we really talked about the rustic charm and the tranquil wilderness because they were so true to us. And he was just blasted with contacts from Craigslist to a point where he seemed moderately stressed out because now he had to sort through all those contacts. So that worked out. So the great thing about somebody who doesn't have, back to you guys, a rental yet, is that you can kind of craft this narrative from scratch when you're thinking about what kind of a place do I want to have, what kind of a rental do I pick, what kind of a property do I pick, and you can kind of go crazy, right? You can have a standard, you can have the log cabin, you can have something standard like great graphic designs on the inside, which is like a very modern, chic interior if that's your thing, and you want to also think about what is going to be the guest's thing, and you can kind of go crazy. If you're near Orlando or somewhere around there, you can do something wild that you would never in a million years want to live in, but the guests with kids would totally pay top dollar to stay in for a week. So that's what's really great about sort of beginning in the industry, that you're not just, your house could be lovely, but you're not just stuck with your house and having to rent it out. You can sort of craft the kind of experience you're going to want to offer. So then when you get to the marketing of it, you want to stage and photograph all these items and scenes for your guests, and it's likely they will enjoy them too. So when you're looking around the property, all the natural features and the things that you are going to decorate it with, keep in mind that things like, oh, I think that's really cute. I should just photograph that. And of course, one of our things is, so these are real estate photos taken of a rental. Our thing is that it's not just about wide angle, and trying to capture the rooms as big as they possibly can be. We really want to sort of, we want to have a different look. So this is one of our customers with their old photos, and this is their new photos. So we like color and contrast, and for things to pop where you still show off the same space. I'm just going to back up again. Older shots. So there's a way to do really nice photos that still show off the space, that kind of still look grand and wide, and still add the character back in. Be true to the colors that are in the property. Show off the stuff. Kind of give a better feel for what it's going to be like with the pool table where that green really pops at you. So going from the experience, like how do you convey that sort of technically? How do you get that across? Here's another property that's very pretty real estate. All the lines are straight, the exposure's right. Doesn't have a lot of shadows, very HDR-y. And again, it's to me and to us, it's starting to lose a little bit of the character. So this is where we take our customers, what they have, their rentals, and do a lot of digging around this, but sort of how do we highlight what it feels like to be in that space? And how do you convey that with photos that are sort of true to the space, true to the colors, that show off the lovely stuff, and that are going to provide an accurate experience? Because of course, the big difference is, as I'm sure you know, is with real estate, you can invite people over and say, well, if you don't like this property, I have 10 others. And they can walk around and touch and look and ask questions. But of course, with rentals, they're just looking at your listing online. They've got nothing else. So you have to show it as is, but slightly better. And that's why you really want to sell the experience and add a sense of yearning, because they're just gonna buy the whole thing as is. And when they arrive, it better deliver. So again, with photos, so we don't advocate that you don't use any real estate tricks. Of course we do. These are before and after photos from when we did a virtual photo shoot with a customer very recently in their kitchen. That is the photo that they took. And just from a technical perspective, it's too high, lines are not straight, all this stuff. So we position them in the right spot. They take the photo and we edit. And it has that, real estate quality. It's brighter, the white balance is different. And of course, you do all these shots with your rental too when you think about your marketing. Um, their dining area, again, just a slightly different angle, edited differently, looks more real estatey, right? But then you can go in closer. So then you do these close-up shots, and where you really get to bring out the character of your rental, the little details that you put there that call out where it is or what you like about it, or like those crazy space features, a little crab thing holding the remote up. If that's your theme, you just go ahead and run with it. These are things that wouldn't make sense with real estate. And I know I have friends who have bought property and said, why would they put a picture of a vase of flowers in there? It's stupid. I'm buying the house, not the vase. This is the opposite of that. They are buying the experience of what it's going to feel like to sit on that couch. What are they going to see? What are they going to feel? What are they even going to smell? If you put food in front of people, they're just going to, they can almost grab it through the screen. So all these things, when you're thinking about crown molding and carpeting and things like that, when you can come down to sort of decorating and actually making a place ready for guests, you really need to think about it from the guest's perspective. So Brian, you want to tell your
Yeah, this is
significant object story?
It's a funny story that I came across not that long ago, and I think it really serves as a great metaphor. So I can't remember exactly how it originated, but basically a group of writers got together and they did this experiment where they bought a bunch of junk, more or less, and no one was allowed to spend more than a few bucks. I think it might have been $5 cap. And then they were each assigned one of the products to write the description of for eBay, and to see how much they could get for it compared to how much they had paid for it. And on average, so this is one example. This actually, I think, was one of the best ones. The little globe there cost $1.49, and the write-up was so good that it ended up selling for $197.50, which is 133 times profit, basically. But even, I think they had about 80 different items, and the average overall was 28 times what they had paid for each item. So it just shows you that it's not so much what's inherent to the thing, it's how that thing is portrayed and how it is presented. And so that's, they were doing it mostly with words. We use words and photos, but the message is the same, that two people could have virtually identical rentals, and the way that they set them up, the way that they stage them, the way that they photograph them, and the way that they describe them could lead you to magnitudes more profit than somebody else would get. And I think, I don't know if we have that slide in this particular presentation, but I seem to recall calculating that people who are at the 99th percentile of hosts, as measured by all those data sites I was talking about earlier, are doing 10 times as much business, or 10 times as much revenue as those in the middle. Not the worst, the ones at the median. So 10 times as good if you're right at the top as if you were just average.
Yep. So all the significant objects, again, whatever you like in a property that you find or that you have, it's quite likely, again, that your guests will like it too. So stage it, photograph it. This was one of our favorite spots in a rental where we stayed, that little hot tub. So we just put a little wine and glasses there and took a view. Again, it's almost as if you're in the hot tub, right? Like that is what you would see when you're in it. That kind of experience. Maybe it's just a cute sign that you have near your kitchen. So you want to grab a photo of it because it's likely that that is going to resonate with potential guests and viewers as well. Even if it's just a silly pillow, meet me by the sea, it's telling the story of your rental and speaking to the kind of person who would like that. Or maybe you have a thing for owls and you have owls everywhere in your property. Turn it into a thing. And again, you maybe think owls are cute, but your significant other would never in a million years let you have this many owls at your actual house. But hey, you can do this at your rental. You just sprinkle it with owls, and this turns into your theme. And maybe you turn it into a game where your guests have to find that little red owl that you hide around in the property, and it's a thing that kids can do. So again, thinking about things from the guest perspective. How do you take this thing that you have, and turn it into a great guest experience. Not just here's a table, here's a clock, here's a window. What is the experience inside the rental? Brian, you want to tell us?
Yeah, so this was a
this
stay that
place?
we had in New Zealand, and it really kind of epitomizes a story that we could tell you 10 different examples of, where we have a lot of conversations with hosts to get a feel for the kind of guests that they're trying to bring in, what's the story of why they picked that place, what they love about it, etc. This turned out to be a fantastic stay, although you wouldn't really know it from this particular montage. So these were 5 of the shots that were in the listing. They're not that special. And so the typifying aspect of the story that we could repeat over and over again is a host who will tell you in conversation about 3 or 4 amazing things about their property. And then you go back and look at their listing, and none of those things are represented visually, and sometimes not even mentioned in their copy either. Now, this place was relatively small, which we didn't mind, but really what was amazing about it was like this, it was almost like a version of either a Narnia or Hobbiton or something like that in the backyard. This just vista that you could see through those glass doors when you stood out on the porch. And there were no photos of this. So we took this when we were there. And there are a lot of different kinds of animals down on that little plain there. There were horses and cows, and I think, even some more exotic stuff occasionally. I think we have another one from a different time of day coming up. And it just was amazing. Like you weren't going to spend any time in that, the equivalent of like the little mobile home. You were going to be out on that back deck just staring at this in awe. And so there are so many cases where we talk to people, they're a beekeeper and they didn't bother mentioning that, or they have an organic garden and they could give tours of that in the backyard and teach people, how to get started in organic gardening. And they didn't mention that. And the list goes on and on of the stuff that people take for granted that they think is boring or that they think no one would want to hear about. And it's actually could be the linchpin to why a whole bunch of people would want to come and stay at their place.
Right. And again, with real estate, because sometimes, not all of you have your rentals. It's okay. We can help you too. But you can, again, sort of start over and think about, before you buy a property, like what would a guest enjoy? Not what makes a good forever home for a family or a good starter home for a couple, but what is a great vacation experience? And again, it could be something funkier. It doesn't have to be standard house hunters. You're thinking the craziest international house hunters episodes that you remember. And one of some of the things that we really like to focus on, and again, specifically with photos, but also with some of the caption, is the whole "I can see myself there," right? That's what they repeat on House Hunters over and over. I can see myself there. Oh, I can see myself cooking here, on and on. And to me, it comes down to visually to what I call the first person shooter photos. The ones with the gun in the middle of the screen, like you're the dude doing the shooting. Those kinds of shots where you can almost sit in the tub or on the sofa or somewhere, where you come down to the viewer's level and you kind of show what they would see. So again, here's the pond in the backyard. And I am going to put in my other headphone just in case this one dies. And
this is not an either or thing. It's not like we say, don't take these kind of shots. We say
exactly
alternate. So one of the stories that I like to tell about Katie's background is because she was working in the TV realm. You think about it, and if you try this as an experiment sometime, watch either a TV show or a movie and just set the timer for 1 minute and count how many times they change perspective with the camera. It'll be somewhere between 15 and 25 times in a minute. Right. And that's all subliminal. You're not even noticing it, that a 2-person conversation at a coffee shop goes from just the 2 of them to just 1 of them to the full shot to show you how many people are in the coffee shop, to the street view, and then back to the 2 of them and then to the other one. All that's rapidly happening. And part of the reason that that's happening is because that's what your brain needs in order to stay entertained. And the other part of it is that gives the director more control over what you pay attention to and what you remember out of that scene. Yeah. What was that?
I'll try and mute.
Okay.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, right. So we're not saying that don't take the shot. Obviously, yes, take the shot too. But again, this is very pretty, but this is more informational too, right? Here's the pond, but then you could actually get on the pond on a paddleboard and show the view from there. If you look closely in the background, I like pointing this out. That is Brian Green, the other presenter, taking a nap on another paddleboard. And it was just a great shot, sort of what it feels like to be on the pond. Again, more about the experience. Oh, I could see myself there, that kind of thing. Or I could see the kids there, and then I could do something else on the shore. That works too. So again, not just here's a view, here's again a nice view, but here's a view of the hammock. Why don't you go close where you can almost be in the hammock, because you can get people sort of dreaming. You can get them thinking about their vacation that they're going to have. Again, here's a scene for the breakfast. Isn't it cute? You can have your breakfast here. Well, why don't you come in really close and show us the breakfast? Again, I know, of course, you would decorate things with real estate for a showing or something, but this is maybe not the kind of photo that you would put in the listing. It's what, again, my friends call fluff. But the fluff is really what you want with vacation rentals. You can see the garden in the backyard, and you can almost reach the strawberries and have this sort of a breakfast experience here. Another great shot of a sort of a house in, I like to call it a castle, but the owner said it's not a castle, it's just a farmhouse. It's a castle. A really nice shot of the front, great popping colors, very stately. Yes, you want to show off the grounds. Of course, you want to show off this shot too. And of course, we're going to take it as we did with this host. This is a photo that she took on our photo shoot. But then you want to show off something cute in her property in action. That's again about the experience. So this is off to the side of the grounds. They have a little oven there where you can make pizzas, and there's like a little outdoor dining area. And again, you can just, with the flames especially, right, with this thing going, so you're not just showing a black chute with nothing in it. They took the time to actually prepare a pizza, and it's just, oh, it's awesome. It's making me hungry right now. And again, yes, you could have pizza at every property, but the fact that this person put it in their listing makes you think favorably of them. So these kinds of shots where you just come down low, really what I call hero shots of amenities or drinks. You almost at eye level to whatever your coffee maker or something, your grill, and you make them look sort of big and stately. And so you can almost just grab the thing through the screen. Here again, one of our customers, not a technically perfect shot. The lines aren't straight and blah, blah, blah. But isn't it dreamy with the fireplace, the game, and the drinks there? Again, you just kind of want to sit down and relax. So this is really what we are looking for. These cookies from this house that's just all Packer stuff, just wall to wall for sports fans of this particular team. This is just awesome. And they made these cookies for a photo shoot, and they're just so yummy and good looking. And I just, you again want to just kind of grab them.
Let me jump in there for 1 second. So the cookies really, for me, made me want to put in this interjection. So we've talked a lot about what we call yearning. For many years now, we've been talking about there's trust and there's yearning. And we mostly have focused on yearning so far. Trust is the foundation, right? That's the bare minimum. You need to do things that make people feel like you would be a good host, and that if something went wrong at the place, that you're going to take care of it. And yearning is kind of like the next level. But when you're doing things that create yearning, you almost take care of trust automatically. So for instance, look at those cookies. Would you have any doubt that that host has their game like primed, like that they're going to be doing all the right things in terms of sending you the instructions on how to get in and what the checkout procedure is, and that they've, got plenty of toilet paper, and that you're going to be able to find everything that you need and get on the Wi-Fi? It's like trust is a big, big piece. And when you get to that yearning level, you've surpassed it to the point where they're not even wondering whether they have to have their guard up about whether you're going to have a good experience ready for them.
Right. And again, in terms of marketing, these are not random cookies. These are cookies that you explain in the photo caption, that I provide these to you when you enter. So this is a part of, again, the experience that you're going to have with this particular host, that they've got you. They've thought about this from your perspective. We like the shower curtain, get naked, something memorable and kind of funny that makes you think maybe favorably of this host. Is always great. You may not want to have that at your own house, but at your rental, that is a great thing to add, just something memorable. Shots like this, when you think about the surrounding area or the grounds of your rental, is there any place where you can direct guests? They're going to love walking up here. You can bring some snacks, some drinks, read and watch the sun go down. Just these kinds of first person views. And again, you're promoting the experience of it, not just the space.
This is my favorite one. I'm going to have Katie tell part of this story, but we've been big proponents from the get-go of thinking beyond just the four walls of your place. Most listings really just spend all their time talking about the actual property, sometimes just the inside, occasionally, you know, what's going on in the backyard and such. But we say go farther than that. Think about, why would somebody be coming to your neck of the woods? Why would they be coming to your town, to your part of the country? And don't assume anything. So even if you're in Paris or London or someplace that everybody knows the hot stuff to do there, don't just take that for granted. Go a step further and say, okay, I'm you know, two stops away from the Eiffel Tower, and I just happen to know that on Tuesdays the crowd is low between noon and 3 p.m. for such and such a reason. Add value. Tell them stuff that makes you the ambassador or the mayor of their town or the concierge of their vacation, however you want to describe it. Think of it as you're going to provide inside knowledge because you've been there a long time and they haven't, and you're going to save them time, you're going to save them money, you're going to save them trial and error. If there's 10 steak houses nearby, tell them that you've been to all of them and which one you like the best and what they should order on that menu. And those become things that they're going to remember about you. They're going to be thinking, wow, this person's not just trying to, you know, sell me a place. They're actually trying to make sure that I have an awesome time when I'm here. And we haven't mentioned this yet, but I always talk about what we call tiebreakers. When I was the one doing the majority of the listing searches for our next stop, I would sift through 100 or more to get down to 5 that I would say, okay, Katie, which 5 are we going to, you know, consider? These are the 5 that we're thinking about. Which one should we stay at? And that's when it got tough, because those 5 were all pretty good. So how are you going to win that tiebreaker and beat the other 4 when they get it down to just a few? And these are all things that can help you stack the deck in your favor so that you win more tiebreakers. If you're the one who told them about the best happy hour and the best donut shop and the best cross-country ski trail, they're going to think this is obviously the one we should pick, even though the other places look nice too.
Yep, exactly. And that's where you can sort of put your realtor or real estate buying hat on, because you've been thinking about, where's this house, where is it located? Maybe previously you've thought about, you know, schools or work, or how do you drive around here, that kind of location stuff. Now you can think about it again from the fun experience, from the guest experience, the sort of a tourist experience, and thinking about, you might not know who's actually going to come and visit. Maybe back in the day, and one day, let's hope, international travel, or if it's going to be people from out of state, or if it's just going to be locals who are going to come to a slightly different part of the state, or the county, to come and enjoy something specific. But now you want to think about those kinds of experiences, and we really like when somebody does give us personalized recommendations. This is a little coffee shop in my town in Finland where I live, and it is not the flashiest or the sexiest or the most hip. Kids don't come here usually, but it serves the best coffee. And I always think about it when I go there. I would absolutely recommend that if you want a really good latte, you go and get it from this particular place. Um, and it's on the go. This is just the best stuff you can get. This will be my personalized recommendation. And of course, you can go bigger, and think about, again, with your location, what you would recommend the guests come and experience.
This is Mount Soledad in San Diego, where I lived for a long time. And I don't think on very many people's short list when somebody comes to San Diego, it's not one of the things you think of, but it's at the highest point, and it's high enough. You don't even think of San Diego as having a high point, but you can go to the top of this little mountain and you can see into Mexico, and you can see far north, and whenever the clouds allow, you can see a massive vista in 360 degrees. So I always make sure that people go to that if they're coming to visit in San Diego. And so this is that kind of category where it's like, it's a bit off the beaten path, but it's something that, you know, they'll remember that you were the one who told them about it. I call it my Netflix analogy is, if anybody's ever recommended a show or a movie to you or vice versa, and you liked it, you give them way disproportionate credit for the fact that it's almost like you think of them as a co-producer. Thank you so much for telling me about such and such a show. It's become my favorite thing this year. It's the same with these kind of recommendations. They're going to give heaps of credit to you just for being the one who told them about it, even though they technically could have found it on Yelp or Google or somewhere else. All right, so we're getting to
Brian,
the
go
end here,
ahead.
so we can get to some questions. But you know, the good news / bad news part of this is most people don't get into short-term rentals thinking that they're going to need to be a professional photographer, copywriter, marketing expert. And of course you could hire just each of those out separately. But we think it's better to have them kind of all wrapped up in one piece. And that's kind of what we've assembled as a small little team that covers all those aspects and tries to make everything coherent and always from that perspective. And go ahead, Katie.
This is just photos of us. Kind of, we did a little bit of our intro earlier, but this is us sort of traveling around the world, our rentals, through different continents where we took photos and how we kind of got started from that Montana place. I started taking photographs over at neighbors' properties. Then we started taking photographs of rentals around the world, sometimes in exchange for stays, and always wanted to capture wherever we went the experiences. Of course, everybody does, right? You want to photograph. I climbed a mountain. I was on a boat. I was on this beach. And now you want to think about that when you have a rental, is that you take the shot, you take yourself out of the shot, but you take these shots for your guests. What are the things that you like to do? Where would you take a shot is likely, again, where your guests would really want to hang out and have an experience and a memory and a vacation, a good time on their vacation.
This is just a handful, partial list of podcasts that we've been on. And, you know, over the last few years, we've just had in-depth conversations with so many hosts that we've continued to evolve what we offer. We started with a short video course, and we've also got a product at the higher end that's basically done for you, where we take everything off your hands, write the description, do the captions, research your competition, figure out what there is to do in town, help you take the photos, edit them, put them in the right order, etc. And then we've got something in the middle, which is a little more do-it-yourself, but still with a lot of input from us. So we've kind of created those in response to the conversations that we've had, where there are a couple of different kinds of hosts who need or want different levels of help from us. So for today, what we wanted to leave you guys with, we kind of anticipated that most of you might not have your own rental yet. So the best tool that we've created in the last few years that would serve somebody who's kind of just about to make the leap is an ebook called The Vacation Rental Jumpstart. And basically it's interviews with about 28 different experts in different facets of the vacation rental space. And I interviewed them all on Zoom, usually for over an hour. And then we would transcribe them, and then we would take the best aspects of that and put those in the chapters of the book. And it wasn't just a bunch of infomercials. I really specifically set up questions for each of them to ask them things like, you know, what do you wish you had known when you first started a rental? Or what tool besides the one that you sell would be the number one that you would say everybody should have if they were starting up a rental? So it was all geared towards getting them into the mindset of like, how can we help somebody who's just getting started in the business skip over some of the hardships that some of us faced in the early days. So we'll have a link that you can go and get that for free. And then for those of you who do have a rental, you'll also get an email from us that'll give you an opportunity to book a call at a severely discounted rate from what we normally do, a listing assessment. That's kind of our bread and butter is we spend time and effort as a team going through your listing. We make notes of what you're doing well, what you're not doing at all, what could be done better. And we deliver that to you and say, you know, here's how to get to the next level. So for those of you who have one, you might want to consider that. If you want to hold on to this email anytime in 2022, you can use that link and that discount if you end up getting one, you know, 3, 6, 9 months from now.
Would now be a good time to jump in with a few questions?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Our first question is from Shakiba, and she's asking about insurance on short-term rentals. How do I know what sort of insurance to get?
Great question. So Airbnb had issues with that in the early days, and they created a $1 million policy that supposedly covers all hosts. I'm not saying that we have a definitive answer to that. So there's a few sites, and some of them would be in that book we were just talking about that would be kind of more expert in that area. AirDNA is one. There's a lot of the podcasts that we've been on that would be more up on those specific details. In most cases, I think you would need your own insurance, but the OTAs do kind of have you covered to some extent. So that would be a question for somebody who specializes in a slightly different area, but we're going to be putting you in touch with those kind of people through this book. And even just going to their website, you probably don't have to listen to their podcast to be able to find those on their FAQ questions on their websites.
All right, next. And Eugenio is asking, can the presenters recommend a book on how to create high quality promotional campaigns like this, or a service that does that? And that might have been answered when you mentioned your ebook, but maybe you have some other book recommendations as well.
Well,
Yes.
do you mean promotional campaigns like, you mean your listing? Putting together that listing?
Yeah, I would say how to put together a good listing, or recommendations on services.
Because I was wondering if they actually mean the slideshow that we made, because that's a different thing.
It says book.
Okay, so there are a couple books in our book. So we talked to a guy named Danny Rustin, who's a friend of ours. His book is Optimize Your B&B. And then we've also got a guy named Jasper Rivers in the book. He wrote a book called Get Paid for Your Pad. So these guys, we think of them as in like cousin industries to ours. They do some very similar things in terms of being able to help evaluate somebody in terms of the promotional side of the business, how to get more guests, how to rank higher, etc. And then we're like a niche within that. So we're buddies with them. We don't see them as competitors. They do some stuff that we don't do. We do some stuff that they don't do. Like, for instance, none of them actually does anything specifically with photography. They'll be able to evaluate and tell you whether your photos are good enough or not, but they wouldn't go the next step and say, like, here's how to make sure that the photos turn out great, or we'll work with you to create great photos.
All right. Ryan is asking, all the sites that you mentioned and places to visit when you go to an Airbnb, are these things that you would include inside the listing, or are they something that you would reserve for the welcome book when visitors got there?
Right.
So you would take the best of those and put those in the listing, and you want to think about your target audience. So you're thinking about who is this rental going to be for, and sometimes it's about the location. Again, if you're near a big destination like a ski mountain, or you're near a Disneyland or something, then that's what you want to promote. But then with your personal recommendations, I recommend that, say you have a favorite pizza place, you go in and just take a shot at the pizza and put it in, and we like to narrow it down to your top 3. So your 3 activities and your 3 eat or drink recommendations, and that's plenty. You want to have your listing to where you have about like 50 photos, 40 to 60. Any more than that starts to kind of feel like homework, and there's probably some redundancy. But fewer than that, then maybe you've missed some opportunity to promote a nearby thing. And then the rest of it, say you have 18 things you want to recommend. You have 6 waterfalls and hikes and all these things. You want to put the rest of it in the guest book, yes. But pick a couple of the ones that you think speak to your target audience the most. Biking paths, beaches, things like that.
Now, there are a couple of electronic guidebooks that have come up, and we're big fans of all of them. We're most familiar with Hostfully, and they let you put all that kind of stuff in a guidebook that's meant for the people who are staying with you. And whenever we talk to somebody who's put time and effort into a guidebook, we always say that is awesome, and that is definitely helping to make sure that your guests are happy. But why not repurpose some of that material at the front end of the sales funnel and use it to win over people to come to you in the first place? And that's what Katie was just describing.
And I saw that somebody asked where in Montana we were, who was familiar with the area. We were west of the 93 in a little town called Condon, and loved it. Think about it constantly still.
All right. And with that, I think we're going to open up the lines and let people ask their own questions. I'll drop the link. Somebody's asking for the link for your ebook. I'll drop that in the chat as well.
Okay, awesome.
All right. No questions, huh? All right, then. Everybody, could you take yourselves off mute and thank Brian and Katie for coming in and speaking to us?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank
Katie.
you.
Thanks, that was amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank
Good
you.
stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank you.
weekend. And thank you,
Nice
Brian and Katie, for coming in.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks
See
for
you
having us.